Thank you, Councilman Moran. The time now is 6:07, and I hereby call the regular meeting of the City Council to order. It's Tuesday, July 20th, 2021. Please bow your head for invocation by Councilman Finley.
Dear Lord, thank you for allowing us to be here this evening, gather safely together, and let cool heads prevail. Give us the wisdom to make the decisions that are hard, and just guide us, bring the city together. We have plenty of things on during our times that drive us apart, but continuity and togetherness is where we need to be. And thank you for all the many blessings you have given this great city. Amen.
Amen. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor DePrio.
Here.
Finley.
Here.
Moran.
Here.
Shepard.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Marr.
Could I get a motion to confirm or adjust agenda?
I move.
Motion made by Councilman Clark to confirm. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Shepard. All in favor?
Aye.
Presentation agenda. We actually don't have anyone on the agenda tonight, but we are going to add someone. So on the agenda tonight, we have a drainage project that we're starting, and it's Drainage Area Basin A, which is a rather large basin. If you live in Ward 1, you're in Basin A. So we have the engineer that's going to do the project, and he's also going to work on Aiki, Kaliki, and Amoka. Mr. Ben Benvenuti with Covington Engineers. So he's going to come up and give us a brief statement on what it means to look at Drainage Basin A and help us get that area straight where we're having so many issues. Thank you, Mr. Benvenuti.
Thank you, Mayor. So you're exactly right. So we're the scope of work you're going to approve tonight is focusing on Aiki and Kaliki and drainage areas 55 and 56, and then drainage areas A, or drainage area A, watershed A. We've already started, based on y'all's approach a couple months ago, having us look at Turnberry, which is in Basin A. In the northern end of Turnberry, we've got a good jump on that area, have built a model in that area, and so now we're moving south in the watershed or downstream in the watershed and focusing, throughout A altogether. So this first task is we're going to come in, compile all the data. We're going to work with, the county, pull their information, pull LIDAR data, pull survey data, start compiling everything that we have in the city that can be utilized in the model, and then we'll start jumping in and developing that model. So once we get that information, we'll come back to you, I believe next month, and talk about what information we have, what we've gathered, how that's setting up in the model, and we can start the modeling process at that point.
Okay, so your first step will be Topo Work, so the citizens will know that you'll be out there surveying. That'll be our first.
That's correct. If you see us out there, we're going to focus on major drainage crossings as well as the major and minor creeks to get capacity, understand how they flow, and again, delineating sub-watersheds. Watershed A is 435 acres. So it's a big area in the city. It drains a lot of the city. And so we're going to start delineating sub-watersheds within that watershed, using our survey information, field verifying on the ground, making sure where every drop of water goes in watershed A.
All right. Any questions to my left? Any questions to my right? And this is going to be a process, so we want the residents to know this isn't going to happen overnight. So starting at the beginning, doing the topo, entering the data, then running the models, looking at the existing culverts, the ditches, what we need to improve, and the whole process is going to take a few months at least, right?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. But we're ready to hit the ground running as soon as
Now.
it's approved. So we'll start pulling that data.
All right, well, we hope to do that tonight so you can get busy tomorrow.
All right. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next regular city council meeting will be held on Tuesday, August 3rd, 2021 at 6 p.m. in City Hall Council Chambers located at 5000 Diamondhead Circle. We will be recessing the meeting tonight until Wednesday, tomorrow afternoon at 5/21/2021 at 6 p.m. to attend to some budget information that we need to get approved. City Manager's Report, Mr. Michael Russo.
Yes, ma'am. On the agenda, there is an item to amend the advertisement for engineers to add a new scope of work for someone to serve as a city engineer on retainer. This will give the city access to an engineer to come and look at drainage or other issues quickly, and to also just give a quick opinion. It also provides one professional advisor to the city that can look big picture with us, both the administration as well as the council. On the agenda is a fill policy. The building official has worked with one of our engineers to adjust the land alterations and disturbance in the zoning ordinance. The goal of this change is to limit the amount of fill to be put on the lot for a new home, and that fill cannot be placed in the drainage easements. Our building official is here tonight, so when that item comes up, he can speak more intelligently about it. Gulf Coast Restoration Fund grant application is on the agenda tonight. That is due by the end of the month. The project we included was the Commercial District Transformation Project, Phase 7. That would be Noma Drive, basically from City Hall to the river, and basically primarily a reconstruction on half of it, at least from the circle down, as well as adding the multimodal lane. That would be a separated 10-foot lane to the waterway. That would be basically ending at the new boat launch waterfront area that we're constructing. The cost of that is estimated at $1.2 million. The grant portion's $960,000, and our local share would be $240,000. Just for the record, the last 2 years we have been awarded this grant for this same project, from the Gulf Coast Restoration Fund, and just did different phases. So, there's a contract for a public defender. The city currently pays $1,000 a month for our public defender. I'm recommending that we continue this cost-effective way of providing this required legal defense to indigent defenders, and that the city approve the contract at hand. There's also an item for PERS. Per council instruction, we have prepared a draft letter to send to PERS. What we need from the council is guidance as to what position or departments they wish to inquire about establishing that PERS benefit with the city. And that's all I have. Quick.
Any questions to the city manager from my left? Any questions to my right? I just wanted to add that we did receive a call from Congressman Stephen Palazzo, and we requested $1 million in appropriations for the town center, and he has approved it. He has put it on a bill, so it's got to go through the Senate and be signed by the president for approval, but we've made it a long way. It's very good to get to this point, and I wanted to thank our city manager for filling out the paperwork and getting that ready. Once we get this, and we feel confident we'll be over $5 million on the town center, so we're very excited. Thank you. All right, moving right along. Public comments. We're going to start with, and all of these are agenda. No, just one is agenda. Ms. Penny Crawford.
Penny Crawford, 7922 Apaki Place. We don't know that. Okay, what I was talking about today was the ordinance that we had, the planning and zoning had been working on for quite a while to change the ability to fill lots in a way that obstructed our drainage, injured the other property owners, etc. So now tonight y'all are going to consider it. And I had a couple of questions, and I hope you'll discuss those when you come to this item, not just vote it in, but actually talk about it for the public to understand. It says no fill will be placed on a parcel of land for the purpose of raising an elevation without first submitting an application for and obtaining a fill permit. I hope there will be teeth in that someone who comes along and just fills his lot and then says, oops, look what I did, and we don't do anything about it. I think if he doesn't have a permit, he has to rip it all out of there, and we have to start over, and he has to comply after that. The fill requirements I certainly hope it says that they will not encroach on any designated side and rear yard setbacks. I am assuming, because of what our discussion was before in planning and zoning, that means that it stops with the wall of the house, and the fill cannot go from the wall of the house to the property line, because that is the setback. So I'm hoping that's where we're going with this, but I don't have any way of knowing for myself right now. That it should not cause negative impacts on surrounding property. We know that's what happens currently, that all of that lovely red dirt comes downhill into the neighbor's yard, up against the neighbor's house, in the neighbor's ditch, in our ditches, and it obstructs our drainage. Please, we have to be conscientious about this. Our staff has to be conscientious about this. So if we're gonna approve this tonight, I certainly hope this is gonna work for us and for the community in a way that we want it to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crawford. Moving on to the minutes. Can I get a motion to approve, and I think we were all at all these minutes, so I'm going to put them all together. A motion to approve the July 6, 2021 recessed meeting minutes, to approve the July 6, 2021 regular meeting minutes, and to approve the July 13th, 2021 recessed minutes.
Move.
Motion made by Councilman Shepherd. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Moran. All in favor?
Aye.
Ordinances 2021-236. Motion to amend the advertisement for request for qualifications for engineering master service agreement and other federally funded projects to include a contracted city engineer. Could I get a motion?
So move.
That's supposed to say table matters, and it didn't populate correctly.
Okay, well, let's back up on this, and I apologize. Could I get a motion to move off the table Resolution 2021-236?
So move to.
Motion made by Councilman Marr. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Finley. All in favor?
Aye.
Now the motion is on the agenda. Motion 2021, could I get a motion made to amend the advertisement?
Move.
Motion made by Councilman Finley. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Clark. Any discussion to my left? Any discussion to my right? And I just wanted to add, is the mayor and council's going to go through these like we've done in the past and do the score sheets? I saw the score sheet in the advertisement.
No, ma'am, we would have followed the same procedure that we've been using for scoring, which is our staff would have done it and then made a presentation or recommendation to the council. That's
Okay.
our purchasing policy.
Last time we did it.
Yeah, this time we need a little more notification. I know
The last
y'all-
time y'all did it, there was not a city manager. Y'all had a interim city manager.
Okay. Mayor Deputy, I guess we need a little more. Is there any way to have a little more involvement? I know what Mayor Deputy was asking.
Yeah, I'd like involvement. I mean, I know firms, and I'd like to even read the proposals.
I mean, just like the last time, those RFQs were available for all the council to come and observe, read. That way you're educated when you're asked to vote. But, you know, the way we've done both the hurricane disaster debris, then the prearranged, was following our current policy, which is also state policy as the responsibility of the city manager as the purchaser. But ultimately, it's up to you, the council.
Well, can I ask Derek a question? Derek, so isn't there an issue with us being part of the hiring process and then us voting on this?
Yeah, I mean, that's come up before in some of our discussions, and the way our form of government, the recommendations to the council and that evaluation process is part of the administration. You guys turn over the administration, the recommendation to the city manager, and he assumes kind of that role for you all. He then makes those recommendations. Obviously, all the information available to you all to get more in depth, to get more information. Certainly you are all allowed to use the experience, the knowledge, everything that you bring with you to the table when you make these decisions. Ultimately, the decision is yours. Mike's job is to put together a staff to assist in not only getting the advertisement out, the RFP out, And this came from, in the past, we've taken what we've used in the past, we've put this together, had you guys approve the advertising, the kind of criteria that he's looking for. His job is to get that staff together, do those evaluations, do the interviews, check the references, also use his knowledge and experience and the knowledge and experience from the staff. And, they don't check their knowledge at the door either. So they've got, if they've got some history and know, some things, they're allowed to have that, input as well. But ultimately, then it comes to you guys. You guys are the decision makers. You guys ultimately approve that contract. You approve that hire. If you guys have, you can substitute your knowledge for that of Mike, and but I caution you and I recommend to you all, if you do that, look at the information. It will all be available to you. Evaluate it all, look at it all. Use the knowledge and experience that you have, Mayor. I know you've got a wealth of experience. You know all the players in this field. Use that experience, and if there's no requirement that you follow the recommendation of the city manager, but if and when you don't, have justification, have reason for what it is that you're substituting for that recommendation. So that's kind of how the process was designed in this form of government. It is obviously unique in Mississippi. We don't have a lot of our form of government, but that's kind of how it works in this form.
Any more questions to my right? All right. Okay, and we will, so they will be available so y'all can all go read, and I hope you do. I hope you take time to go read them. Okay, can I get a motion to approve? And we need roll call. City Clerk? I know, I was saying you need to do roll call. It's an ordinance. You want me to do roll call?
No, it
Okay.
doesn't matter. If she wants one, she can. Okay. Finley,
Yes.
Moran,
Yes.
Shepherd,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Marr,
Yes.
Debrio.
Yes. Resolution 2021-038, a motion to adopt Resolution 2021-054 to amend Article 14, land alterations and disturbances of the zoning ordinance regarding the fill of property. Could I get a motion?
Move.
Motion made by Councilman Shepherd. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Finley. Any discussion to my left? And I'm going to, if you don't mind, Mr. Ron Jones, our building official, can you come up and let's discuss this? Because I'm sure we have a lot of questions.
Sure.
All right. I'll try to make this brief, succinct, and to the point. It could get lengthy, though. But anyway, the council did request such a thing. Matter of fact, it was actually Mayor Schaefer was adamant that one day we would have such a thing. Okay, so some background is that we put together a draft, and we had a hearing at the Planning Commission level, and their recommendation was to approve it. However, that give it to a consulting engineering firm to get their thoughts about it. Okay, and that was done. We gave it to Bashada Batano, consulting firm that we've used in the past here, and I'll share some of his thoughts. The first thing he did say was that it should not apply to across the board every lot in the city of Diamondhead, because every lot is different. Some may be high, some may be low, some may not have drainage issues, and so Mr. Gerald Fitzpatrick recommendation was to look at it on an individual basis. All righty. So he was definitely supportive of no fill in the setbacks, because he says this will help slow and detain some of the water. Now, we did go a little further than that. In the ordinance, we're saying you cannot fill in the setbacks. And so in the side and rear yard, but not the front. Okay, and the setbacks, you know, sides are 8, 20 in the rear. Okay. We've also put in here that you cannot fill in the drainage and utility easements on the side and rear yards. Okay, so now how this works is that if by some reason there's a say an R2 zoning district and there's a 40-foot house being put in there and that they only have 8 feet on either side. Well, what that means is that they will not be able to have any fill in that area at all. Now, which the effect of that could be, and a little encouragement, that either you're going to use a chain wall or a raised foundation. All righty. And perhaps you may know that our ordinance does require that you have to be a foot above the crown of the road. And so some of the things he mentioned is that possibly develop fines for any illegal filling. Okay. And then he said possibly we should look into a way to force a builder to mandate a chain wall or raised foundation based upon certain conditions. And so so the things I mentioned here, we haven't explored those yet. And then another thing he mentioned is that we should look into requiring on some lots where it's a troubled area, the flooding, detention on the individual lot. Now, the way our ordinance is written now, that's not allowed because in the stormwater ordinance, if a lot is 1 acre or less, the no net increase in stormwater runoff does not apply. So now, I haven't gone any further than that. What we have before you is that there's no fill in the side yard setbacks and in the rear, and also in the designated easements. And so this is the first step of a process because there's some of the things he mentioned that could be effective. A little more homework needs to be done as relates to those. And so I wanted to get something to you quickly that could be easily already have a tool in the bag already. And so this is sort of like the first step. And so I do believe that this will help the situation. Now as it relates to enforcement in terms of trying to help Ms. Crawford's comment, that enforcement areas, there could be a stop work order, yes, and then there could actually be a citation issued for them for a violation of the ordinance, and then go through municipal court. And the misdemeanor fines at municipal court is up to $1,000 at their discretion. And so, but sometimes that takes a little time to get somebody to a trial. You know, it just happens. Okay, now I do have this in mind as it relates to enforcement, and that is the city of Biloxi has an inspector, a stormwater inspector. That's all he does. And on the spot, he has the ability to give a ticket and say, you got a ticket and your fine is $250 or whatever it may be. And so I want to explore that avenue where that if we have to issue a citation, it can go on for a while and then finally we get justice. And so now some of the things I mentioned to you may not be acceptable overall, even writing a ticket, that does give us a little bit more power, in terms of, okay, instead of asking for doing it and asking for forgiveness. Another thing that may not be acceptable, and that is requiring detention on individual lots, because there's going to be pros and cons to that. And so I'll stop here. I just wanted to get this before the council as our first tool in the bag.
Can I just ask you a quick question?
Yes.
And that would be, if they don't get the permit, you would make them take the fill dirt away, would you not?
Yes. Yes. We're at a point where they need to do it right the first time. And so, anyway, that would be my position. Oh, well, never mind. I've said enough.
Well, and just to clarify, any builder will have to have a permit before they put any dirt on a lot.
Correct.
Correct. Not even backfill on a clearing or anything like that. Before they put any dirt, they have to come back and say, here's my drainage plan, this is my reasoning for doing it, this is my impact on surrounding property or non-impact, and this is how I plan to drain water off. Correct?
Yes, sir. Correct. And I didn't mention it, but in the ordinance where it talks about where you got to get a permit, it lists the things we need.
It does. It lists a topo survey, elevations, drainage flow, proposed site topography elevation.
Mm-hmm.
It lists quite a bit of information, so you should be able to have, and you have the ability to deny or approve
Correct.
those permits. So I like the wording in the first one. I'm not going to say that I didn't. So when it changed, I was kind of, but then I looked at the where we don't have it in the setbacks.
Yeah.
The 8 on the sides, the 20 in the
Mhm.
front, and the 20 in the rear. And what you did on the 60-foot lot, that's what I did today, because I said I need to reassure. On a 60-foot lot, it won't fit. It
Yeah.
won't fit at all.
Is
And
that-
if you look at an 80-foot wide lot with 2 8-foot side yard setbacks, 20 front, 20 rear, and let's just say a 30-foot house and a 24-foot garage, and that would leave, 5 feet on either side. The most amount of fill they could bring in would be like 1 foot 8 inches, which compared to what we've been seeing, and I know the residents are we're all at our wits' end with
Yeah.
seeing red clay getting in the ditches and flowing out. So this is a big step to stop that.
Yes.
So, I mean, I see that it's not, and on a 60-foot, there's no way you could bring fill in and be within the easements. You wouldn't
Yeah.
be able to get your side slope. So
Yeah.
your home's going to be shorter than the setbacks, and I think that was one of Ms. Crawford's conversations. A house usually doesn't go setback to setback unless the lot's small.
Yeah. Well, if you don't mind, let me just say one more comment
Mhm.
of why I left out something from the previous one. And that in the previous text, we had that if you take say you take 6 cubic yards out, you can bring in 6 cubic yards to replace it. Well, the reason I took that out is that I don't think that's enforceable in terms of the tools we have. The reason for it is that how am I going to know that you took 6 cubic yards out? And then how am I going to know that you brought 6 cubic yards in? Because I can't stand there when they dug it out and say, okay, you got a 6-yard dump truck, and okay, you took out 6 yards. And then I'm not going to be around when they bring it back in. And so that's why I took that out, because I saw, I didn't see a way that I can enforce it. I mean, literally enforce it. And so.
No. That's the definition of a true no net fill
Y-
policy.
yes, that's
what
right.
it means. No net fill means
Yes.
no net fill you're going to
And-
take out and bring in. But
Yes. Okay.
But I see with the setbacks, that added, the only lot you're really going to specifically have to watch is anything over 8 feet, because greater than that, moving on to 100, they'd have enough slopes on the sides to bring in 4 feet. So the wider the lot, the tighter you have to watch.
Mhm. And so,
Any discussion to my right?
When
Some
does
more to
this-
my left? Oh, wait, we have a question to the right.
Is this an effective immediately deal, 30 days, 90 days?
Well, I would say it'll take effect immediately upon passage. And unless otherwise, we don't.
Do y'all have it all set up, or the contractors have been notified? And
We've got to advertise it, so one thing I would do, typically if there's an emergency, we can have it be effective immediately. This would be a 30-day because there's an advertising period, and so that would allow us to get word out to everyone. I mean, builders should be, we've been discussing this a long time. We had the public hearing at planning and zoning level. We got some really good impact from engineers at that meeting, and then that was what really prompted us to send this to, the city's engineering firm to kind of tweak it a little bit. So, but no, there's not an emergency that, unless you guys were to say, you guys want to declare it an emergency and have it effective immediately. But, I think Alan makes a good point, is that, to put everybody on notice. And, as I said at our last meeting, and Mr. Marr kind of said, you said we don't need this. We have the tools in the box. This is and this is another more effective tool. What this does is it allows the city on the front end. A lot of our enforcement on this comes when we get calls from neighbors that say, I just saw 6 feet of dirt put on the vacant lot next to me. That's when we're alerted. Here, word's going to have to get out. Builders, you're not putting any dirt until we've got a permit. And, so it gives Ron, it gives us a little bit better shot where we're not, hopefully, not chasing chasing a lot of builders with all this dirt on the lot at the back end, and we're catching it on the front end. So it is another tool in the box for us, along with the stormwater ordinance. And, really what it's going to take is, Ron's department, as this, his building is taking off here in the city, it's really going to take a lot of eyes on the ground. And like Ron said, some cities have folks that are just devoted to doing this. This is all they do. We talked about at the last budget meeting some of the staffing issues. So, as people see it, get Ron's phone number, let him know. He loves those phone calls.
Well, we're just dependent on you, Ron, to make sure, because I think a lot of the residents' frustration we have currently is because of the silt running off, and difficult to keep the silt fence up, and we hear the frustration. I hear it every day, so we got to get tighter on the fill.
Yes, ma'am.
Any discussion to my left?
There's one resident that asked if she can sign up and speak on this matter.
Can we sign up after the meeting starts?
As the runner of the meeting, you get to decide there.
Is it a non-agenda item?
No, it's on this matter, this one right now.
you mean you're going to run Mr. Jones off?
We'll see when we get to the non-public comments, and we'll add. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Ron,
Yes, sir.
you mentioned side and rear.
Yes.
Okay, what about the front? And at what point does the sides come up with the front of the house? Does that end the side of the house, or does it come all the way to the road? What about the front? She mentioned the front, but you didn't mention anything about the front fill.
Okay. All righty. Okay. There are some lots say this is the road, and the lot slopes off here. Well, if you say you can't bring any fill in the first 20 feet, how are they going to get in their carport? You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. They'd have to have a bridge. If you can't bring any fill, you'd have to have a bridge to get to your house. Particularly if the topography slopes it all away from the road. And so that's why I excluded the front yard, because of that particular situation.
Okay. But does the side of the yards begin at the corner of the front of the house, or does it come all the way to the road? You said the side. I mean, does it stop? You want to say the corner of the
I would say the side yard comes all the way to the front, and then so in essence, the width of the house, then that area at the front, that would be from there where you could bring in fill to get to your house.
I just didn't know there was a loophole for somebody there.
No. And because, well, if you don't, then if water runs down your driveway, it could easily run into your carport. And
Mr.
we want
Jones.
to prevent that.
Not to,
Huh?
not to be a pest, but is it clearly written? So when somebody looks at it, they can read it one time and, because this is getting, like I see on people's faces out here.
It's cross the
It's
T's and dot
clearly
the I's.
written side and rear.
Because,
And it also says in the ordinance that you have to show why you want fill dirt at all.
Correct.
So the loophole wouldn't be a loophole even if they were trying to like do something, because you say, why is this dirt necessary except for the building of the house to make it accessible to the road? And the permit has the typography saying, where's it gonna be, and are you using the minimal amount? So, to me, all of those things would be up to the enforcement side, and that's the thing I think most of our residents are having the problem with. And like you said, you can't be all places at once, is the enforcement. I'm glad that we allowed to have extra inspectors come on board with the budget, but I do think some of your suggestions of having like a separate person to be looking at this type of thing might be worth considering at another council meeting. And I do think some of your ideas, and I like your idea, that this is a step needed now, but this is a process of more stuff to be looked at further. And I think we all should think of that, because the water problem is getting out of control in terms of we're having heavier rains than normal and all like that. And everybody's blaming it on the building when it's really not on the building plans and permits. It's more on builders are getting away with stuff without a penalty.
Right, that's what I want to talk about also is violations. Okay, basically if a builder goes out there and say he go ahead and pours a slab and it's higher than it needs to be, okay, are we just gonna give him $1,000 violation and then he gets go, or does he scrape it off, start all over again? Let's do it right this time.
Okay.
Because a lot of people just pay the $1,000 and be done with it.
Okay. How I would deal with that is that our department has a laser gum. Can't think of the last.
But if it's over the laser.
Yeah, well, yeah. So another, what I'm trying to say is that we can go out there and we can shoot a grade at the crown of the street, and then we can shoot where the batter boards are, and then we'll know where he is. He might say, I'm going to be 2 feet above whatever. We have the ability to verify that. We can go to the crown of the road, shoot a grade, and then go to anywhere on that property and get an elevation difference.
We're gonna make
and
him take this slab down.
Yeah, and on the enforcement side, that would be, one of the remedies. Obviously, a stop work order, remove it. Mr. Jones has, plenty of examples that we debate over all the time. He said builders that didn't call in inspections and they have drywall up and paint on the walls. And Mr. Jones has said, that drywall's coming down. I can't see through walls. So builders know these things. Builders, and there's always going to be folks that are building on their own or trying to kind of cut corners or do things. When they're caught, they have to come in compliance, and there's several tools for that.
Ron, can you just speak to the inspection process before a slab is poured?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Okay. That when they have the batter boards up, that means they haven't been approved to pour concrete yet when they have the batter boards up. And so during the inspection process, we would catch it then that you got a problem with in terms of your elevation. And so this it would be caught before concrete is poured. Yeah.
And I think the problem's going to be, more so than that, because they're usually good about that. If the elevation's set at X, they're usually there. But fill dirt running off into the 8 foot and 20, that is going to be, that's a full-time job, because when it rains, it runs.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
I'm hoping with this ordinance, what we're trying to accomplish is that we're going to push builders in the direction of chain walls or elevated slabs to get this done. Now, in the interim, we may have certain builders that try to push the envelope, but if it starts costing them money, like they have to get out there and they have to take dirt out, I think at that point, they'll go ahead and start changing the plans and taking the, a little bit extra time to put a chain wall in or a different design.
And that's, well, that is, but on 80 to 100-foot lots.
And I have already, where contractors have submitted slab on grade, and I looked at the elevations and the contours, and I said, I've denied the foundation. And I told them, I said, you gotta come back with a chain wall or raised foundation. And every one of them have come back with a chain wall.
And that's a good thing. And, this is a good starting point. We can try it out for a few months. We may have to come back and revisit because we may see things that we didn't see, or people are very good about being creative. So we may have to come back and tweak it to fine tune it. But
Yeah.
thank you,
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Jones.
Thank you.
All right. City Clerk?
Finley,
Yes.
Morian,
Yes.
Shepherd,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Marr,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Resolution 2021-039, motion to adopt Resolution 2021-055, thereby authorizing the preparation and submittal of application for funding for Gulf Coast Restoration Fund for the Commercial District Transformation Project Phase 7 in the amount of $1,200,000, the federal share $960,000, committing the city matching funds in the amount of $240,000 and other related matters. Could I get a motion?
Move.
Motion made by Councilman Shepherd. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Marr. Any discussion to my left? Any discussion to my right? And this was to seek grant funding to do the road from City Hall all the way to the end of Noma to where the boat launch is. Also put in the boardwalk, and to put a 10-foot multi-mobile path from City Hall all the way down Nomer Drive. So we hope we get this funding. City Clerk?
Finley,
Yes.
Morian,
Yes.
Shepherd,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Marr,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Could I get a motion to approve consent agenda items 7 through 16?
Move.
Motion made by Councilman Finley. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Clark. All in favor?
Aye.
Action agenda 2021-237, motion for discussion and/or possible action regarding the initial application of membership to the PERS Retirement System of Mississippi. Could I get a motion?
Move.
Motion made by Councilman Shepherd. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Clark. So we are moving for action to enter into an application. So at this point, I think we need to address the concerns of what we are asking in the application. So I'm going to turn it over to our city legal counsel because he has worked on the application.
Ms. Klein worked on it as well, so I'm going to
Defer.
tag team with her. But what we've talked to PERS. Remember when we started this process, we were envisioning talking about the potential for the fire department and if that was consolidated. We were told back then that they would not really, the PERS is not going to answer any hypotheticals. That you submit an application and you apply for personnel, or departments that are actually under control of the city. So the fire department was not and is not. So that really is not where we can go with this. So what we have found out is the way that you find out is really to apply. And so what we do is you submit a letter. We spoke to them. Submit a letter and you make it known to PERS that this governmental entity wants to apply. They wants to be an applicant, wants to be a member of the PERS system. You identify either which employees you want to exclude, or really for us, which ones that you want to include. by position and/or by department. But again, for us, we have to identify in that letter who it is, because by sending this letter, we're applying. So that's, so it's really up to the council at this time. And like I said, I know we were talking about the fire department at the time. Do we have, or do you all have, do you want time to think about? Do you want to, what departments, what personnel would we want to offer PERS to? And as we make that application, again, it's not going to be a hypothetical, hey, you guys, what if? They're going to want a letter saying, hey, these are the people that we want to apply for.
Well, I guess my main question about it is, beyond that, we have a certain career path of employees, I guess however you put, under the PERS system, and then there are, an individual retires or gets another job somewhere else and that position comes open and it was not on PERS, then we would apply to put that position on PERS?
Yeah, I think that, as the city makes decisions, we could make application to include additional positions or additional departments. But I think in time. I think in that
so
initial.
10 years down the road, we had a position that we did not include originally, and then we decided, well, it's a vacant position. Let's go ahead and apply that to PERS, and we would apply each time.
And I think that's right. Jeannie, is that your understanding?
Yeah, that is what I would think, that, you could start off with certain positions and through attrition or whatever, add others as they come open. But one thing I want to point out is this letter is going to produce a plan document, which will come back from PERS for your approval to start the process, to join, a joinder agreement, if you will, is what they call it. So with that being said, budgetary-wise, I don't think there's anything that would include that. And that's kind of where we are. So
Yeah,
But the information that you've gleaned so far is that PERS is willing to work department by department. It's not an all or nothing for the city?
No, they did not give us that exact.
Yes and no. I mean,
Yes and no.
We think in the past, PERS's position has been kind of hard fast in that, one, if you offer it to one, you got to offer it to all. My guess is that they're not as hard fast on that rule any longer, and the goal would be to try this. I mean, if you did have a set group of employees or departments that you just decided now or next, but if you want to budget for it next year, that this would be the process to say, all right, hey, the city of Diamondhead wants to apply. These are the departments we want to be eligible. PERS may, they're in Jackson. You know how folks are. They may say, hey, we're not going to accept your application with only those. Or they may say, great, we get your foot in the door, and we're going to, hope that you include other departments.
It's a case-by-case acceptance.
So if
And
we-
I think, well, let's start with discussion, 1 second, but discussion to my left. Anybody have any discussion questions?
I just wanted to ask one more question.
Okay.
And that was, hypothetically, we could have a whole department just on stormwater management inspectors and just ask PERS for that. Is that right?
You can ask, but that doesn't mean they'll approve.
No,
Yeah.
but what I'm saying
Yeah.
is, if you wanted to look at a department, you could create a department, have 1 or 2 people in it only, and see what they say,
We could. Yeah.
just to get the
And,
actual
and
answer.
again, we don't know what they'll say, but we'd have the application process in, and we'd be moving forward.
This isn't something we have to decide tonight, right?
No.
It is not.
It's not, but if we were to decide right now, we would initially begin the paperwork if we voted
You would, and then I would kick it to Mike and say, Mike, if they identify certain positions or departments, what you gonna do with the budget?
So we should probably go ahead and get the ball rolling. I guess that's up to us, I know, but
Rework the budget.
Well, I think I guess the question is, if we get approved, we can, and for a department, do we say no? I mean, I don't think that's,
I believe that, once the terms were, once the application's in, I guess that we could say, oh, wait, we change our minds.
We do not, we're going to decide not to.
We're gonna hold off, or-
I mean, as it was put to us, when you make an application, it's in good faith that you're going to
Right, and I don't think we're in good faith if we don't have the money budgeted to do this. And do we, I guess we really have to identify an idea of what it would cost us.
We would essentially be asking for that going an end around and asking for a hypothetical when they told us we don't answer hypotheticals.
Kathy, are we there?
That's my
Don't-
point.
Hopefully
Can you
they're
ask-
not watching.
Ask Ms. Congo, are we there?
Well,
Okay.
not
No, I
only do we
mean-
not have the funds for it, we don't even know who we want to put forward. We don't even
And-
have a test set yet. Until
and-
we
and-
have the test set, I think we should, it's my opinion, until we have we've delineated who we want to put forward, we just need to leave it.
Mayor,
I
should
think
we?
I think it needs to be, and I'm gonna throw this to the city manager, because it's his position, his duty, to be able to get with the employees and see if there's any specific group that would wanna be on PERS. So to get with them and see if you know of any group that would wanna do it, or anyone that we're adding,
Mayor,
that
can-
we could, move at a later meeting closer to next year's budget. And times may change. People's specific personal finances change. So it may be that somebody new comes in that's hired, that's very young, that wants to move up in PERS and work for the city for many years. Dynamics change. So those are things that we need to look at as the city manager and the city clerk.
And start the
They're-
discussion, and as we
Right.
move into next year's budget, we
Mhm.
have it teed up as to,
I was about to ask,
where
should
we're
we
at.
do a timeline, put ourselves?
There's also been an indication that if you allow some and others request, then PERS is going to force you to allow those to join as well. So, those are all things that we can't ask hypothetically. It would be a part of this initial application.
We just want to ask for the fire department.
So in order for us to ask,
Yeah,
really,
right.
we have to have it budgeted for everybody to be on PERS, because, for the most part.
I think that's
I don't know if initially,
extreme.
yeah. But as to asking to the fire department, the one issue that is consistent that Jeannie and I both agree on is that it's real clear, these positions have to be under the control of the city.
I say
So-
let's work on it. Let's work on it and be ready for next year. And if we, we get some dynamics that change, and we've got folks in here that want to get on in a specific, we can put them under a specific department and let them, we want folks to stay at the city for
Yeah.
20, 40 years and work and move their way up. So
Miss,
I say later on.
Kathy, what's the fiscal year timeline? Like, our budget has to be approved by when? In August, when?
You're basically having a special meeting tomorrow at 3 for approval to advertise to beat the deadline in order to be
The-
ready for the,
The hearing's August
On-
17th.
And on our current schedule, it'll be approved on September, the
Yeah, so we
first
have to go
meeting in
through a
September.
whole nother year before we even jump.
Right, but I think what we've kind of fleshed out is that it's going to take some time to kind of budget for it, decide, and it may be long-term that eventually, this is our way that we step into it, and we come up with a plan on how to get everybody that wants to be on it by a, certain.
I think our
time.
initial plan has to figure out how we pay for it first, and then that's kind of important, so.
And to see what group of employees would want it. I mean, we want to offer, most cities in the state have PERS, so we want to be competitive. We want folks to want to come to Diamondhead for that. We want to be able to take care of our employees, but we need to see who wants it, dynamics will change. It'll change in a year, we don't know. All right, so with that being said,
and just realize, for an employee to participate, there's basically a 9% of paycheck that is withheld and sent on their behalf as the employee contribution, in addition to the employer's contribution. I think it's 17.4% of salary at this time. So some employees may say, man, I don't want to lose that 9%. But I would anticipate that you'd probably see a large percentage say, yeah, I'd probably do that.
you're probably right. I do
like the plan that y'all are heading.
And
So
it
like-
may be that folks want to stay here for 20, 30 years and retire in PERS working at the city. But, working over governmental entities that I have for a few years, I did have folks that didn't make a lot of money, and it was very difficult to take out the 9%. That's the difference between being able to go out to eat and not. So there's a lot, it's a lot of discussion when you talk about PERS, because once you're in it, you're not getting out unless you quit. So that's just how it is. Okay, so we'll vote on it, and if it dies from lack of action, then we'll wait till next year. So all in favor?
Discussion, possible action, so I
It
guess
was-
if there's no motion to take any specific action, then we're just done with that.
Done, okay.
Does it, yeah, I guess that's a question.
There's lack of action. We lack an action up here. Thank you. Moving on to claims payable. Motion to approve docket of claims DKT 158634, DKT 158664 in the amount of $139,450.37. Could I get a motion to approve? Motion made by Councilman Clark. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Marr. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve payroll payables APPKT 01543 in the amount of $61,753.35. PR claim 089 in the amount of $29,951.22. PR claim 090 in the amount of $31,647.08. And PR claim 091 in the amount of $2,644.35. All in favor? Oh, motion?
Move.
Motion made by Councilman Shepherd. Could I get a second? Second made by Councilman Moran. All in favor? Aye. Could I get a motion to approve department reports, the June 2021 financials and the police department report,
I move.
code, privilege, and building department? Motion made by Councilman Clark. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Marr. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public comments on a non-agenda item. And who wanted to add their name? Okay. Well, I'm going to let you come up first. And you don't even have to write it, but let's just say your name and address so that the city clerk can have it. Thank you.
My name is Betsy Lyons.
Betsy Lyons.
Okay, I have a question about the easement on each side of the house. Is it the same for every house?
Did you press the button?
Do it?
Is it green? Is it lit up?
The mic.
Yeah, it's just a little far from you.
Can I
Yeah.
get your address real quick?
7615 Fairway Drive.
Okay, I thought so.
The easement, Mike can clear this up, it's different from R1 to,
When you talk about drainage and utility easements, the front is gonna be your 10-foot and back 10 feet. Sides of each, 5, for your drainage
So-
utility easement.
Yep.
So from my side of the house to the neighbor's side of the house, is that what you're talking about?
So
That's
property
8
line.
foot.
To the property line?
So property line is here, the first 5 feet going each way is a drainage easement.
So 5 feet from my property line?
Correct.
Okay. And my other question is that when the city, somebody has a permit, doesn't have a permit and puts 11 loads of dirt in their front yard and backyard, and then I'm getting a drainage problem, and then they find out that we said something, and then all of a sudden, nothing's done, and they were told to put a chamber wall up or put, what's that? Culvert.
A pipe?
Not the pipe, but the,
A retaining wall?
no, it's a drainage.
Like a swale or a ditch?
A swell
French
or a
drain?
ditch or, I can't think of the name of it anyway, but I'm still getting water. And then she comes next door and they put a pipe coming from their,
Miss Lyons, I think you know what you need to do? You need to call up here tomorrow and let's do the whole complaint. You know, either speak to Mr. Jones or speak to somebody in the building department or compliance officer and let them know what's going on so we can look into. Or shoot myself and the city manager an email.
all right, I will.
who came out originally and looked at it? Mr. Jones? Do you remember?
Mr. Jones.
We need to look at it again. Okay.
Guilty.
And now I'm in trouble.
Send him out there to look.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lyons.
Thank you.
And Mr. Jones may talk to you for a few minutes after the meeting. Since y'all both are here, this is very convenient. She is 7615 Fairway. Joy Danella.
I think a lot of reason that any of us have trouble believing anything that you say is, first off, when I contacted Mr. Jones about my first property that was needed to be condemned, his comment to me was, we're not in the habit of condemning houses. I'm really sorry that your kids are sick. Secondly, all the builders that are coming in here seem to have certain relationships with people, so I don't really see you running around and holding them accountable. Thirdly, you keep saying that building is not causing the problems, yet these problems weren't here until you started all the building. Fourth, you keep saying that you want to make Diamondhead an exciting and you want, people to come here. We're not an average city. We have 10 square miles of land to work with. Most cities, even in Mississippi, have a population of like 50 or 60,000, and we have 8,000 people. And you guys keep making decisions that are literally driving this community into the ground. And it doesn't, if you have eyes, you can see what's going on. The roads are sinking, the trees are turning black, our ditches are filled with clay. None of you could show up when my kids were getting shocked just by turning on the light switches from the stormwater, but you can drive by because I have a kiddie pool, because God forbid I try to use my yard because I can't. It's just insane to me that you sit up here and you spend all this time about all this talk about giving yourself raises for what? What do you need raises for when we can't even fix problems that are making this place livable for people? It's just something for all of you to think about. Thank you.
Thank you. And nobody got raises up here. Okay. Mr. Ronnie Wetzel?
Okay, because of my experience working in the oil field, that's something I noticed, that's going on a lot. I know for a fact that Mississippi has always had H2S in the ground, and same thing in Alabama and parts of western Florida. Drilled a lot of wells offshore in this area. There's evident that some of that gas is also coming out of the ground because of so much saturation and the pollution here, so much saturated into the earth here that we have a problem. I just took a gas reading inside the building here, and let's see what I got. 973 parts per million carbon dioxide. Normal carbon dioxide would only be about 400. You can look it up and do your investigation. Yesterday at my house, I had 1,272. A couple months back, I had over 2,022. Where is that gas coming from? It's coming from the earth. It's the only place it can be coming from. If you got that much gas, it would be similar to what you would have inside a place like maybe Bangkok, Thailand, or Manila, Philippines, where you have so many vehicles riding around and you got that carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. But if you look at the bottom of most of the trees, especially in this low-lying area back over here by Devil's Elbow and all of this, if you look at the bottom of the trees, you can see it's yellow and greenish, and that is sulfur. That's what that is. And what it's causing is, if you look at the bark on a pine tree, you can see it more evident, because in between the big layers of the bark, you can see it's black. And what she just said about the trees, some of them leaning over and stuff, that is very true. There's a lot of trees that's actually kind of leaning over, and eventually they'll come down when a little bit of wind blows. They'll start dropping. So it's something to think about.
Thank you, Mr. Wetzel. We are moving on to discussion and workshop. So we're entering into the workshop discussions. FY22 budget. So we have been discussing the budget. We've had meetings on the budget. We've had workshops on the budget. Today we did get an updated budget, and the only number that changed, Comptroller, was the one where we were getting the CARES Act funding, and it's actually over 900,000. We're getting 986. Mm-hmm. So that changed our deficit from 1.2 to 1.14. That was a blessing. Okay. So that was the only number that changed, and I'm going to turn it over to the city manager to see if he wants to add anything about the budget.
No, ma'am. We've had a couple of discussions thus far. We made the changes that y'all called for. Kathy's done an exceptional job, in my opinion, of keeping us on track.
She does an excellent job. Okay. Any discussion to my left? Any questions on the budget? So the one that we have here has the adjustment on the, okay. It has the updated.
I have my same thought that I have every week with this, is that I really think with the city the way it is this year, we need to take that capital money for the renovation of the chapel and move it into capital allocation towards drainage. And that's where I am with that still.
And again, it's strictly a budget item. If that would come before y'all, everything in the budget, y'all still have to vote on line item by line item. So if that was going to be presented to y'all, and again, we would probably have more discussion as we lead into that, y'all vote to say yes or no, specifically at that expenditure of fund. So it ain't going anywhere. Even though it's in the budget, it doesn't get approved unless y'all say go advertise for that. And it's a specific item.
Any questions to my right? All right, with that being said, our budget public hearing will be August 17, 2021, and we will recess till tomorrow afternoon to do more work on the budget. No more discussion on the FY budget, so we're moving on to Solid Waste Services FY22 Solid Waste Authority. The Solid Waste Authority, Hancock County Solid Waste Authority, myself and City Manager Michael Russo sits on the Solid Waste Authority, and the contract expires for our garbage pickup on April 30th, 2022. So we're currently working on seeking input from all the cities and the county on what we want to see in the advertisement when we advertise out to seek, services for what we want to have in there. And we're assuming some of these are going to be bid alternates. So when we call them out, think about the fact they're probably going to be bid alternates because we have to get everybody on board with it. That's the City of Waveland, City of Bay St. Louis, Hancock County, and the City of Diamondhead. We all make up the solid waste. And some of the discussions the city manager had sent out is the number of times per week for garbage collection. And these are things that we need to discuss so that you can tell the city manager and myself so that we can bring back to the board to know this is what we're looking at and these are things that we're looking at.
Just some background, Waveland, Bay St. Louis have twice a week pickup. Diamondhead, the county, have once a week pickup. There's some pros and cons to that. One of the cons is that when those garbage trucks are turning on our cul-de-sacs, those are big trucks. They're basically ripping up the streets. So if they go twice a week, that you start seeing more rocks, especially on the cul-de-sac turns. And Nancy can probably speak better to that about those tires going into the asphalt. However, there's people in Waveland, they absolutely want 2 times a week. I mean, boom. But obviously 2 times a week also costs more than 1 time a week. Okay, so that's just something to think about. Right now, we've got differing on what we have from Waveland has, and that's where they want some direction. What do we want to see as a community?
Can
Or
I ask,
collectively.
has this been an issue that's been brought to your attention, that people complain about the number of pickups?
No, I have not received any complaints for Diamondhead on number of times per week. That's not something
Everybody
that,
Diamondhead just once, right?
once per week in Diamondhead. But
Bay
we've
St.
got to
Louis
tell the authority, when they go to bid, how many times they want to see it.
And Bay St. Louis and Waveland are twice a week, but they do not rent their cans. So we rent our cans and we're once a week. We put out a big dumpster, and I see them out with little cans unless they purchase a dumpster. They do not have the dumpster, the can rental, and that's another option. So I have had a few people say twice a week it'd be nice, but I think residents have learned. I know I've learned since '93 once a week, but it did take an adjustment because I was used to that twice a week.
And it's just, again, that would be just a fee for it.
And we need to recycle.
So,
Okay, discussion to the right?
No, I haven't had anybody even broach me about the subject of more pickups per week, so.
Neither.
So,
I mean,
I'm
we're
okay
kind of
with
hearing,
one.
Miss Nancy, still, but once a week for us, is what I'm
Yes.
hearing.
that's what I would say.
Once
Yeah,
a
we don't have
week
to make
for
a
us.
decision tonight, but just the guidance as we go into our next meeting.
We have, and you know what? Okay, so we're gonna move on to that, so let's not talk from the audience, but we're gonna move on to that curbside recycling. I think a lot of residents are eager for that. Garbage can rental, you know, we've discussed that Waveland and Bay St. Louis doesn't, but I hear discussion that their residents are wanting it, because I see a lot of information and posts that they do, and I think this is a big asset in Diamondhead, having the uniform and the garbage can rentals. Just my opinion. Any discussion to my left?
Agree.
I like the big can.
To the right?
Like the big can myself.
I
Have
think
two.
most residents do. And the bulky waste is a service that we have in the contract right now, and we're supposed to be cutting our limbs 4 feet, tying, putting them out by the curb, nothing bigger than 4 feet. They're not supposed to pick up, and it's a nice service to have. Discussion to my left.
That happens once a month?
Anytime you put your garbage out once a week,
Wow.
you just have to bundle them, 4 feet long.
Do they need to call Public Works and tell them?
No, the garbage will pick them up,
Garbage
waste
will pick-
management.
okay,
Mhm.
Waste management, under our current contract, has a bulky waste line item. So again, which Nancy was just describing, it, shrubbery would need to be cut in 4-foot sections and bundled or bagged. So basically where they just can grab it and throw it and keep moving. They're not sitting there by hand trying to load this whole truck. Same thing for leaves. If you put it in a bag, put it in a box or other stuff, that they'll pick it up and take it with their normal weekly pickup.
We try to keep those bags to a minimum.
Yeah, about to say, I've seen some people with 25, 30 bags
Yeah,
out
we do,
there.
and then
Leaves.
Leaves.
discussion to my right.
Well, we definitely need to fight for recycling. If we're going to be a forward city, I think that's the baseline for any city that says you're either forward or you're backwards. And whatever, I think that should be put to the people if they're willing to pay for that.
You like the bulky waste, having that option. I think
Oh,
residents
absolutely.
utilize it. I mean, I see a lot of people putting their limbs out combined.
Yeah, we
Okay.
use it all the time, so.
I do as well. Curbside recycling, we had it, it was wonderful. You know, we had it back before Katrina with our marine bins, it was fabulous. Then the price got up and you know, we renewed it, we had a chance to do it for 4 years and we should have, but we did 1 year with renewal option of 3, 4, and 5, and it didn't come where Waste Management would renew the contract because we were getting such a good deal on it, it was a good deal. So looking at curbside recycling, you know, recycling's still quite pricey, so I don't know how it's gonna work out, but I'd love to see it as a bid alternate myself.
Yes.
We don't have any idea of the cost.
Yeah,
right now,
what,
right?
what is the cost when you say pricey?
It came back whenever they offered, it was astronomical, and I think Bay St. Louis and Waveland were looking at it, wasn't it around 76, 77? I
wanted to say like, yeah, it was like 10 plus a month just for that
Extra.
service, extra. Now, I'll comment on it and just say, you know, the existing dumpsters that we're utilizing that cost the county about $50,000 for Diamondhead, they pick up 3 times a week and we're still overflowing. We've added two cardboard dumpsters with once a week pickup on the 2 of them, and it's removed some of the stuff out of the big one, but it too is overflowing. because
that's
of
twice a week
the
pickup.
demand by our residents in utilizing it. I also just think it looks ugly in the front of City Hall. And people drop things like treadmills, mattresses, and other stuff that's not recyclable, but it's a good place to go dump something. That's called litter. So, I mean, the current setup, if we're gonna do recycling, I would say, you know, curbside.
And that's an all or none, right?
That would be all or none. But as an alternative, and you might want to explain alternative, if we start looking at the
So,
bid
right.
projects.
So we were gonna
Companies
do-
can bid on them.
So it'll be a bid for waste pickup. We know we have to have that. So that'd be a collective bid with all the cities in the county as one unit. And then we were gonna do alternates to see, just like we did on the parking lot that we approved tonight. You know, we had 3 alternates on there, and one was to remove all the asphalt out there, and we picked all the bids. And we're having one complete parking lot that we have been waiting on since 2014, so we're very excited. This will be a bid alternate. A bid alternate will be all the cities recycle, you know, and maybe not the county, do curbside recycling. And a bid alternate would be everybody does garbage can rental, or just Bay St. Louis, Waveland, and Diamondhead does it, and Hancock County doesn't. So not everybody's going to be in agreement, but the cost will be reduced if we all do agree on certain items, especially recycling, because the more we have, the less it'll be. And then we have the gravel truck, which, any discussion to my right
Yeah.
on this
I wanted to
curbside?
ask, so the recycling is all or none, so if we decide to do it, every citizen gets charged $10 a month to recycle?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
And why that is we can't, the recycling truck doesn't know who paid and who doesn't pay. So it's all or none. They stop at every home and do it. Even if you don't do it, you're helping share the cost in your neighbors that do.
But-
So it's,
But if they had the tubs they had before, only give it to the ones that are gonna be doing it?
and see, that's another option, you know, the curbside recycling bins that they have in Harrison County. And Mike, that's one we didn't put on here, the curbside recycling bins, you know, is renting those, because Harrison County rents those as well, the little small rolling ones. And I think for a lot of the residents, that's a lot easier to get the recycling out to the curb than it is to pick up the bin.
And it had a cover on it, so it also protected things like cardboard, or anything blowing down the street type of deal.
And it's a lot easier to get out to the curb than picking up the bin and going. But either way, curbside, if we have to carry it out in a tote bag, you know, we'd love to get it back. Is that something y'all are interested in looking at, the recycling bins? Have y'all seen the little ones in Harrison County with the lead that it looks just like a
Yeah,
dumpster?
but is that for glass, plastic, paper?
And we hadn't gotten to that discussion on what they will allow.
Can't put them all in one, and I wouldn't be the same thing, right?
Yeah, they all go in the same thing when you do curbside.
They sort curbside.
Okay. Well,
Then
something to check into.
Then the gavel truck, and I'm gonna let Mike talk about how difficult it is in the city of Diamondhead for us to go out and pick up limbs on the side of the road, because we do not have a gravel truck to be able to do it. And everybody, Bay St. Louis, Wayland, and the county all discussed collectively the difficulties of picking up limbs on the side of the road. You know, the city of Waveland's way behind. They can't keep up with it. Bay St. Louis is as well. And they have full-time employees doing this. So, you know, this is something when you jump off in it, you better be ready to spend, because it will turn into a full-time job. But collectively, if we could have this in the contract where we could all utilize it, and it may be one day they're in Ward 1 in Diamondhead, another day they're in Ward 2, 3, or 4, you know, and you'll know what day it is specifically, you know, what day, and all the cities will have the same person that does it, and they'll be spread out across the city on picking up. You know, we could get a very more cost-effective rate collectively doing it, instead of what we're doing right now, which is not very cost-effective, and it's very time-consuming. So, city manager, explain how we pick up the limbs now.
So at present, if you live in the county, you basically burn your shrubbery. They light it on fire. Bay
And
St.
the
Louis and
city.
Waveland, what's that?
And Diamondhead, how do we do it
So,
specifically here?
in Bay St. Louis, Waveland, obviously it was common. They each
Right.
own their own grapple truck. Bay St. Louis charges $2 a month Public Works is a staff member designated to it. They bought the truck for about $150,000, and they go around. It takes them about 6+ weeks to make one round through the city. Waveland is the same way, takes about 7 weeks. That's just part of their general fund through the Public Works Department. They have one guy designated. Their issue right now is they can't keep their truck on the road because it's broken. So they're going to either have to buy a new one or look for something else. So they're all very much interested in adding this service. For Diamondhead, our Public Works staff goes out. People call in, send us emails, and says, hey, come out, I've got shrubbery or whatever. We make a note of it and go to that address and pick it up. We send a track hoe, not a grapple truck, with 2 other men, a dump truck driver. So 3 pieces of equipment, basically a pickup truck, a track hoe, and a dump truck to the scene. So 3 employees, not 1, to use equipment that's not designed to be a grapple truck. So it takes longer, and then it's a small dump truck, so we're making multiple trips to go dumping it in the back, and then we call Pete's to come pick it up. So it's just not efficient. And it also then pulls our staff away from doing other things such as digging ditches or fixing potholes or other things that Public Works would do. So I'm all for grapple truck service.
I'm all for it collectively, as a whole, not buying a grapple truck, but as collectively as having the service. And it may be a once-a-month thing that we get to have, but at least you know what day it is and we could utilize it.
Yeah. I think outsourcing it is the best way to go.
Any discussion to my right? All right, well, we opened the discussion, so we can say that we've opened the discussion and we know where we're going.
I think we're going to be ahead of Bay St. Louis and Waveland on that.
But we do need to add on there about the recycling dumpster. We'd like to have that as an option. I'm writing it on our list. All right, with that being said, legal counsel, any issues, concerns, any discussions?
No reason for executive session tonight, thankfully. I think this is like a record number of weeks in a row. Let's keep it that way.
Definitely, we're trying hard to. Could I get a motion to recess this meeting until tomorrow afternoon, Wednesday, 7/21/2021 at 6 p.m.? Motion made by Councilman Clark. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilman Shepherd. All in favor?
Aye.